Hey everyone, good morning. Welcome to Daily Drop-In, where we are live every single morning, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern. It is Tuesday, October 5th, and we have a ton in store, like I always say, but I mean it a little bit extra this morning. We have Eric Francis with us, and we are going to be diving into our incredible theme, not only talking all things education and taking your questions live, but also diving into the concept that we were able to kick off yesterday with Mr. Jeff Gargas, discussing how to be protective and intentional with our time to refuel. We have a good news article and a lot of holiday celebrations. So go fill up your coffee. We're going to start with a morning cheers with our full network together, and then we will get started with the daily drop-in. So we'll see you in a second. Hey everyone, good morning, good morning. Eric, how are you? Good morning.
Hey Ray, how you doing? I'm good. It's early here. It's about 4 a.m. in Scottsdale, Arizona. And thanks for having me on the show. It's worth waking up and just looking forward to spending an hour with you.
I love it. I so appreciate, bright and early over there. Holy moly. We're so appreciative that you set an alarm for an early morning show like this. I know you've been tuning in a bunch. You are just like such a dedicated member of the Teach Better family. I so appreciate you.
I love you guys. I mean, you guys have been doing great stuff. I remember when you guys first started up and everything, and then you guys wrote your books. And one of the things I was really flattered by, because I know you guys talked about DOK in the book, and Chad gave me a really big shout out. He's been a really great colleague and friend over the years, and you and I have actually grown to become friends and everything, and we talk a lot. And I'm just amazed by you guys, just the positivity, the way you guys collaborate. I mean, I love how you guys talk about yourselves as a family and everything. Kind of feel like I'm always on the outside, just kind of like looking in and everything, but that's cool. I mean, I love when you guys are like, "Hey, Eric, come on and play and come on and participate with us," and it just really makes me feel, very welcome. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Definitely not on the outside, Eric. You are in the family, whether you like it or not. Isn't that how family works, right? You like have all this family around, and whether you're happy to be there or not, we've got you. You are in the family. So I'm thrilled that you're here.
Well, I
Actually,
love hearing that. I love hearing
and
that.
truly, we referenced you a lot last week because we were talking about the power, the art of questioning, which I know is a big, big expertise for you. I can only imagine we're going to dive into so much different dialogue today. But as we slowly get started, daily drop-in style, everyone's like sipping on their coffee. Will you kind of start off with a little bit of an introduction of yourself? I'm confident that people know so many bits and pieces about the work that you've done, but kind of that big bio, like what do you do in education? Why are you so fabulous?
Thanks. I appreciate that, Ray. It's kind of funny, like people know you, but not. Sometimes it's like if you feel like, wow, there's that great song. Who's the person who sang that? I mean, that's why I sometimes feel like, and I'm totally cool with that. I mean, it's not about, how many people know you. It's about, how many people you impact and, are your methods and your message getting out there. So kind of in a nutshell, gosh, I've been an educator for over 25 years. I've been a classroom teacher. I was a site administrator. Worked at the state education agency out here in Arizona. And, teaching is actually my second career. Before I became a teacher, I worked in the film industry for a while. And, what does it say about the film industry that you leave that and you want to go into teaching? And and to tell you this, I got paid better as a teacher than I did working in the film industry. Um, and then, after, working at the state education agency, I kept on getting people saying to me, "Do you want to consult? Do you want to consult? You should consult." Because a lot of the work I was doing when I was working at the state education agency was about policy and law and learning about Title I and Title II and Title III. And it was such a great experience. I mean, I recommend if anyone wants to go into administration, really try to spend the time at a state education agency because we look at school districts like this, looking up at the superintendent and the district office. When you're at the state education agency, you're kind of looking down. It's a whole different perspective and a whole way to do it. So I became kind of had developed expertise in Title I, and I started my company in 2012, Maverik Education. It's named after my daughters, Madison, Avery, and my name's in it. And I'm also a child of the '80s, so you can probably guess what my favorite movie is. So, I mean, I cannot tell you how much this pandemic upset me. I've been waiting 36 years for this sequel, and it's been delayed. So
Flat
I
out,
started my
flat out.
yeah, so I started my company and I did consulting, but I always wanted to be an instructional leader. And the sad thing is, when I was a site administrator, because that's why one of the reasons why I got into it with instructional leadership, I didn't ever feel like I was doing instructional leadership. I felt like more I was being a disciplinarian. Like the joke I like to say is my grandfathers who were NYPD officers, they were finally proud that I became the police officer they always wanted me to be. Because I used to use their interrogation techniques to find out who was in the bathroom fourth hour. By the way, if the tips of their ears turn red, they're lying. If their eyes roll to the left, they're lying. If they go no, then they're definitely lying. And I just never ever really felt like providing that professional development, which was really what I always wanted to be, because I'm a teacher at heart. Doesn't matter what you do in life, being a teacher at heart. So when I started my company, I started doing professional development on strategies I used in my classrooms. And then I presented at an ASCD conference, and all of a sudden, this world got opened up to me where these publishers were slipping me their business cards and saying, "Did you ever think about writing a book?" I said, "About education? No." I mean, I always wanted to be an author, but I thought I was going to write screenplays, or I was going to write comic books, as you can tell from my fandom behind me. I got a couple offers. I decided to go with ASCD for now. That's a good question. That came out in 2016. It's amazing. What you say is, I wrote a book. You know that feeling. You've written too. And it's like no one can take that away from you. It's like your name is on that cover, and that's such a great accomplishment. It doesn't matter how many copies you sell. It doesn't matter how many people I mean, you wrote a book. I mean, it's kind of like getting your doctorate. You got it. You accomplished it. So I wrote that in 2016. I came kind of known for my wheelhouse with questioning. But then there was another thing that I got introduced to, which was depth of knowledge, DOK, when we had our Common Core training. And I just I really liked the concept, because I always had a problem with Bloom's verbs because they were so abstract. It's like, how do I measure, analyze? How do I measure, evaluate? How do I measure, interpret? I liked it that we look at what comes after the verb. And then we got that wheel, and they kept on saying, this is not Bloom's. You look after the verb. And I'm like, this wheel is full of verbs. And they kind of try to do the Jedi mind trick. They're like, no, the wheel is accurate. No, it's not accurate. No, it's accurate. And I just did a lot of research on it, and I found out that it wasn't accurate. This document we were given as part of our training on these standards wasn't accurate. It just kind of like became like a really, professional and personal obsession to find out the history behind it. And I did. And I kind of went out there kind of like screaming the gospel. It's inaccurate. Don't use it. And became kind of like, that came my second wheelhouse was DOK. And then I took it, and, when the pandemic hit, it kind of really torpedoed what I did for professional development. I mean, I wasn't going to school, I was going to conferences. So when people say, well, what'd you do during the pandemic? Well, I wrote my book on DOK, which is coming out. And I'm really proud. What I did was I really tried to say, okay, this is not something different. This is something supplemental. So how can I not only use DOK to supplement some practices out there like PLCs and RTI, but also supplement the work of colleagues and friends. Like Katie McKnight's a good friend of mine. I want to incorporate her ideas with literacy into DOK, and how the different DOK levels can address different areas of literacy. Or Richard Cash is another colleague and friend of mine. His ideas of rigor. How can I incorporate that? I even try to do it with standards-based grading, because Rick Wormley, another friend, not to name drop or anything, but, I wanted to work with people. And that's kind of like my thing, is like, what can I do with my work to help strengthen and support your work? That's what Chad and I talk about, the grid method. I'll talk to him, I'll call him up and be like, hey, I learned this thing about DOK, or hey, I thought about this thing with DOK, and kind of like, giving, it's not like you sit there and say, hey, that's mine. It's like, no, you share. And I mean, I put my DOK stuff out there on the web for free, because if it's out there helping teachers, that's the big thing. I mean, you can buy the book, but I mean, we're short on funds when we're in education. And the other thing, I'm competing against this wheel, which is free. So it's like, let's give this other thing for free. So So yeah, so I know I went into a whole different thing, but in a nutshell, now I just do professional development full time, writing my second book, working on videos, trainings to because I think the future of professional development is going to be asynchronous and on demand, and and just here, Arizona, being a dad and being a family guy and trying to keep doing what I'm doing for another 6 months to a year. So
Well, Erik, something I always appreciate about you and something you noted here is that you are constantly being a learner, and you're not only constantly trying and striving to learn more and more and more, but surround yourself with people that are experts in different spaces. And I think that's such a blessing, such an opportunity that we have right now, that as we go research and go learn about what really drives us, our passions, we also can bring others with us who have expertise and passions in different areas and kind of like combine your forces, right? Isn't that the best option here in terms of building a community?
And I think that's the best thing. And I think that sometimes, we need to remember that it's not the Eric Francis show. I mean, or it's not the Ray Hugar show, or it's not, whoever's show. It's that if we can collaborate with each other, the educators benefit more from that. What I like to say, I mean, again, the fandom in the back is that Captain America and the Black Widow are great movies by themselves, but you put them in the Avengers and it's epic. And whoops, there goes my headpiece. I knew that was going to fall out. So sorry about that. So, but that's the big thing is that, how can we support each other? How can we basically help each other? How can we, get out there and promote each other? And it's about service. I mean, even though, you and I are at this whatever level we call it, whatever prominence we call it, we're still serving. And that's sometimes I'm always wondering about. It's like even when I'm on social media, like if I put something out there, what am I doing to serve the education community? Or am I putting this out there to serve myself or the education community? I mean, and it's the way you monitor, you do, your social media. Like I tell people like Twitter, I am Maverik Education. Facebook, I'm Eric Francis. It's kind of allows me to, when I'm on Twitter, I'm Spider-Man. I got the full face mask on. But when I'm on Facebook, I'm Eric Francis and I can take the mask off and be me. And, when people want to connect with me on Facebook, I tell people, I said, okay, you're not getting Maverik Education. You're getting Eric Francis, and, I'm always, out there trying to be like, like trying to be supportive and trying to be like, what are we doing to better this profession? What are we doing to better our community? And also, what are we doing to support each other? What are we doing to like champion each other? Like, throwing, when I was mentioning a lot of names before, it's not to name drop. It's to say, hey, you got to check these people out. I mean, there's a lot of names, but there's a lot of people out there doing great stuff that's like, we need to really like really hone in on, like, people like Tom Herrick, with his work with, he's like there's a combination of like academic and social emotional learning. You had Tom Shimmer on last week. First of all, next to you guys, he probably has the best podcast out there. I just love his format and everything. And even names like, that are getting out there and everything. What can we do to make each other better? What can we do to promote each other? And it's kind of like, paying it forward. You give, you get, don't expect to get. You get hurt when sometimes when you don't get, but what are we always doing to like pay it forward for each other?
So important. Well, I'm excited to dive into not only the work that you do, kind of like the nitty gritty pieces, but also the opportunities that we have to connect everybody that we can try and throw out to our network to go make a new connection this morning is absolutely something that we believe in here in the Teach Better family. Constantly surrounding yourself with people that are willing to share and provide and serve. I love that mindset. I do want to give a shout out to somebody tuning in our Facebook group. We are going to, since it's Tuesday, be starting this morning with our brainstorm bank and then kind of end our show today with some big celebrations and a good news article. But today is World Teacher Day. So while that will be something that we dive into a little bit later, I do want to make sure for those of you tuning in this morning that you are able to be aware of the big celebration, one of the big celebrations today. So exciting. Awesome to see everybody here. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for commenting, sharing this feed, and interacting with our dialogue so far. Erik, we're going to get into some of the discussion this week, not only in the topics that you're passionate about, but also in our weekly theme that we are going to carry throughout the week to try and have different lenses and perspectives shared. So we'll be right back for our brainstorm bank. All right, everyone, good morning. Thank you for popping into the Daily Drop-In, where we're live every single morning, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern. You guys already know how the Brainstorm Bake works. This is just an intentional moment that we do every single stinking show to pause and say, hey, guys, do you need anything? You can head over to teachbetter.com/daily drop-in or teachbetter.com/brainstorm bank to throw your questions in if it pops in your brain or something comes up halfway through the day. However, Erik and I are also here this morning to not only dive into your questions live as you throw them in the chat, but also focus on our weekly theme this week, which is about protecting your time. And Erik, I know you have so many different pieces of expertise that you share with educators constantly. I am so eager to hear your thoughts on this one because I only assume that it's a practice that you not only encourage other teachers to consider, but have to work on yourself internally. So I know you gave us some insight on obviously the book that's coming out soon. We'll have to get into that. Obviously, your expertise on DOK, Webb's depth of knowledge, which is phenomenal. But as we're looking at kind of your mindset of protecting your time, you kind of seem like, and I say this as a friend, you know, I love you, you kind of seem like a workaholic. So how in the world do you balance and protect your time?
You know, I am a workaholic. And it's funny, I was talking to someone about that last week, is that when I like I said, when I worked in the film industry, there was a point where I was unemployed. And it was a very depressing time. This is before the internet. This is before, this is when, Bruce Springsteen used to sing 57 channels, nothing on. And I hated that downtime because it felt like I just kind of wasted my day. And I have a hard time with that, feeling like I did not do something today. I did. And the hard part also, I mean, right, you're now doing this full time. You're providing professional development consulting and doing things full time. The minute you start to have your own business, there's no days off. You're working, and that's the hard part. You're working 7 days a week. I mean, if you're not working someplace, you're creating something. I would say with preserving my time now is that it's kind of funny. Like during the day, I always take out time. It's around 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, where I'll go inside to my living room and I'll just put on YouTube and I'll watch like videos about upcoming Marvel movies, or I'll see something on the news, or, I like to kind of like, check my brain. During the pandemic, it was funny because a lot of times the hard part was self-regulation. But because, I had my own business and I've been doing this for the last 9 years, I knew what to do to self-regulate, to work. But you need to take that time out for yourself. What I do with my downtime is I like to exercise, which was hard because, you and I were talking about this. I just had my hip replaced at 50 years old. So I couldn't work out. So that was part of my downtime. And that was hard for me. So what I did was, okay, I'm going to go binge watch some television shows, which I never do. I don't know how people can do it. But I binge watched this show called Clickbait on Netflix. And then I binge watched Yellowstone. Oh my gosh, that's like my favorite show right now. Do you watch Yellowstone?
I don't, but from the title alone, I can tell you I'm going to be a fan.
Oh my gosh, it's with Kevin Costner and it takes place in Montana. And I like to say it's Dallas, the old TV show, meets Game of Thrones. And it's all about, land ownership and the fights about the land ownership and everything. And also what I do sometimes, like I'll just put on like random parts of a movie that I like. Like last night, I was kind of like for my downtime, I was just flipping through things and I was joking around with my daughter because she gets crazy that I love Batman versus Superman. I think it's an underrated movie. And I always start at the scene where Wonder Woman first appears. Because when I saw that in the theater, oh my gosh, that That was the best. I mean, that when I was in the theater and that whole thing when Doomsday shoots the beam and Batman's there like this and she comes down and does that, I was in the theater going, yeah, I was that guy. And I start there and I watch it, and then I was like, you know what? I want to watch Justice League. I want to watch Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's 4 hours, so I just like zoom through different parts with it. And I think the hard part is taking yourself away from this area right here. I mean, this is what I call my fortress of solitude. This is my office. And, my family will be like, okay, you've been there for a few hours. I also have dogs. So I have one dog at 3 o'clock. She knows, she's like got this clock. She knows at 3 o'clock, okay, dad, it's time to get away from the computer. She'll jump up on my shoulder and start licking me. But I think that's the hard thing. And I think the hardest thing also with time for teachers is that time management is huge. And I always ask teachers, and I put a question out there for you to consider, is that how are you spending your time? I mean, when we're lesson planning, are you really being intentional with your lesson planning? Or are you really just spending all that time creating activities that never seem to turn out the way we planned them? Or grading. One of the things, I used to be an English teacher, and I used to bring like 90, 95 papers home over the weekend. Don't ask me how the Cardinals did in the early 2000s because I have no idea, because I was grading. But then I got to a point where I'm like, am I grading or am I revising and editing and correcting for my kids? Because what they would do is I would hand back their paper and they would look for the score and go, cool, I passed. And then after class, I see a pile of what I graded in the trash. And I joke around. I say I was like that commercial with the Native American who the tear comes down his eye when he looks and sees all the trash. And I'm sitting there going, why am I wasting all this time with writing notes on the paper, making these corrections and revisions for the kids if all they're doing is looking for the score? So what I did was I did more of a holistic approach to grading, which is what the AP exams do. I said everyone starts at a 5, and then you either go up or down, because I graded on a 9-point scale. And I just put a score and a dot for future reference. I give it back to the kids. And they would say to me, well, why'd I get this score? I said, well, you need to schedule a meeting with me. You can come in during lunch or you can come in after school. We'll do a 20-minute meeting. And when I did with English, what I would do is I would take their paper and say, okay, what are you saying there? Does that sound clear? Here's a Post-it. I want you to rewrite it where it's clear. Okay, because you came and saw me, I'll give you a half a point higher. If you rewrite it and you give it back to me where it looks perfect, I'll give you a point higher. So that kind of got to a philosophy where I'm like, what if I could have my kids choose their grades? What if I could have my kids say to my kids, is that your answer? Is that your final answer? Is that your A answer? Who gives the A? It's not this whole thing about, I don't give grades, you earn them. No, I give grades. Because what I taught my students is when you do your work, it's kind of like a relationship, like a customer. Like, you are showing me the best of your product and you care to show me, you like that old slogan, you care to give the very best. So what I would do is I'd say to my students, I say, do you want an A? And they'd say, yeah. I said, well, why don't you do this? Because if you do this, you'll earn an A. But right now, you're at a C. You know what C stands for? It means you're correct, and I can find it on a computer. So when the kids chose their grades, that was also not only a great thing for them, but also for their parents, because the parents will come in and go, why is my kid getting this grade? And I say, I don't know. I mean, I gave him this opportunity. Even at the end of the year, like I'm sure you had those things where the kids would come up to you and say, I didn't do anything in your class all year. What can I do for extra credit? And I'll go, absolutely nothing. You're not giving me extra work, but here's the deal. I want you to summarize in your own words every key point in detail of all the units you didn't do. If you give that to me at least 2 days before the final, I'll give you a 59.5 for the semester. 59.5. Why? Because that's the lowest I can give you without is giving you a 0. So they give it to me and they get a 59.5. And I've never ever said to a kid, no, you didn't earn this. But now they're going into the final with that knowledge fresh in their head. And I really believe with learning, it's about synthesis of communication. You don't just absorb it, you also got to communicate it. And that's what will allow you to learn deeply. And now they're going into the final with this knowledge fresh in their heads. Every single time, my kids would either get 190 or 80. Now you do the average. You got a 59.5 rounded up to a 60. They get 190 or 80. Now they're passing the class. And I used to have teachers going, oh, you let them get away with it. I'm like, I let them get away with what? An education? I don't care about their grades. I care about their learning. they care about their grades. I'm going to give them every opportunity to get an A. So that's something that I kind of learned in terms of like managing my time. Stop frittering away my details where I'm doing all these edit revisions or I'm showing them how to solve the problem. I'm just going to say, this is your score. You want to know what you got? Come and meet me. The kids who care, they'll come and meet you. And then the word will get out. If you go talk to Mr. Francis and he teaches you it, he'll give you a higher grade. And what happens is with that learning, your contacts initially are going to be constant, but because they're learning deeper and because they're starting to get it, the contacts will be less because they're succeeding more and they don't need to see you about it because now they're getting higher grades.
Well, Erik, I think there's been so many different pieces and layers to what you've been able to share thus far. I think your reflection, your passion, your dedication to students choosing to revise and receive feedback is something that the Teach Better team really loves. Now, the debate on grading and how to give points and all of that, there's so much that we could dive into, but holistically, at least being able to focus on the concept of students being able to reflect on their work, get feedback from the teacher, make revisions, and then therefore reflect on those revisions is such a beautiful opportunity here. And it's funny because, something that I want to go back to is the choices that you make now, obviously outside of the classroom and working full time with teachers all across the globe. You are choosing to kind of find that balance between being into these nitty gritty conversations. What are some things we can do in our classrooms to better our questioning, better our feedback? And then also that art where you need to choose to step away and refresh, your mindset. And whether that be by watching YouTube videos or turning on Batman, that I'm a big fan. I have Harvey and Alfred in my house. Like really making that choice to say, I need a break. And whether it be a timer that tells me, a dog that tells me, or something in between, choosing to refresh and allow your mindset to kind of reset before you get into the next activity, I think is really, really wonderful. Before we dive into a little bit more of the intentional breaks that you choose to take to make sure that your mind is fresh, I do want to give a shout out to Jeffrey Prickett. Always good to have Dr. Prickett with us. And I do want to tell you, Jeff, I was just tagged in a tweet this morning. He just released a brand new book. I know, Erik, you have a new book coming out. I loved this piece that I was tagged in because it had a snippet from his book. And while this is a relatively good sized paragraph, I think one of the big takeaways that I was reading this morning, and I'm reading off my phone, I apologize. It says, this is where your core values come in handy. As I mentioned, it's important that you keep them at the forefront of your mind, ready to fall back on with every decision you make. It helps if you actually know what those values are. I mean, really know them. And the paragraph continues. I think that concept of core values is not only something that we as educators are constantly striving to kind of locate. In his book, he's talking about a leadership focus, but for us, Erik, I think some of our work, an element of a core value that we need to hold true to is finding that space to not only give feedback, not only question, but also that space to reset our minds so we can show up as best as possible for those that we serve, whether it be students, teachers, or anything in between. So when it comes to taking those breaks, finding that time, do you find that there is it's more based on like your schedule for the day? Like you reference the time, like the 12 o'clock mark or the 3 o'clock mark? Or do you find that the activity itself is really kind of determining on what your schedule looks like?
I think it's the time of the day. You got to know what's the best time of the day for doing something. Like I like to work out and exercise. So I know I'm not an early morning exerciser. I'm actually an early to mid afternoon exerciser, or even like before I go to bed. Um, the other thing is, I think you have to self-regulate, and it also depends upon the work that you do. For example, I'm out here in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I'm about 2 or 3 hours behind everybody. So I have to wake up early to connect with the schools on the East Coast or connect with you, in Illinois. and I like to call it, it's like West Coast stockbroker hours, because West Coast stockbrokers, what they do is they start their days at about 5, 6 o'clock, because that's when Wall Street opens, and they end it around 2. So I think it's like you just have to be really intentional, and you also have to say to yourself, to say, like, for example, one thing I do is like, okay, I'm an early riser anyway. I'm early to bed, early to rise. Actually, I'm late to bed more so, but sleep, wish I can sleep more. But I'll say something like, okay, I've been at this for like 10, 11 o'clock. It's time to, for about 4 or 5 hours. It's time to take a break. And it's okay to take a break. I think a lot of people don't take a break because they either get really big into their work, or a bad case of FOMO, fear of missing out. Like, if I shut off my phone, or if I'm not on social media, or I'm not out there doing, did I miss that opportunity? And you just kind of got to sit back and just say, I need to take time for me, for your mental health. And mental health is huge right now for us. We need to take care of ourselves. That social emotional is not just learning. Social emotional is also working. A thing I like to say when I go to schools is that, here's this person who's in your school. They come from a single family household. They're living barely at the poverty level. They're single parent. There's 3 kids. One child has some emotional issues, and dealing with things. Another child, they have a learning disability. And the other child's gifted and brilliant, and they could go to college, but they can't really afford it. And teachers will say, well, I have kids like that in my class all the time. I go, oh, no, 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 no. I'm talking about one of your staff members. It's like, we in school, sometimes I feel like we're trying to embrace, what the kids are bringing in, but the teachers, we got to check it at the door. That's not fair to us. That's really not fair to us. I mean, we're human. I mean, we just don't go in the closet after the kids are gone and turn off and turn back on when the bell rings. And we need to take care of ourselves, social emotionally. You know what? You got a stack of grading, put it aside. You know what? I got to grade these papers. Maybe you don't. Maybe it's just a scrimmage. Maybe it's a practice. Maybe every assignment is not the big game you got to play. And if the kids say, is this for a grade? Do love and logic. Oh, you know what? I didn't even think about that. I was so excited about this exercise or this activity that I didn't even think about grading. But thanks for putting that in my mind. Here's the deal. Let me think about whether this is a grade or not. You try not to and just give me your best. And if they give your best, give them a grade if they succeed. If they didn't, well, then make it a learning opportunity so they can do their best and get that grade. But seriously, we need to put aside our stuff. It doesn't need to, we don't need to fritter away ourselves with the detail. We need to take time for ourselves. Put aside the grading, put aside the lesson planning. You don't have to stay at school hours to the night. It doesn't mean you're less dedicated to your kids. You are a person, you're a human. You got to take care of yourself, because if you're not taking care of yourself and you're not happy, doesn't matter. You can't fake it till you make it. Those kids will pick it up. They'll know something's off about you, and they're either going to respond with empathy or they're going to respond with cruelty, going, oh, that teacher, she's going through something, or he's going through something.
Well, it's funny, Eric, that you kind of brought us into this conversation. I was really eager to get your thoughts on the concept of teacher guilt. It came up yesterday in our daily drop-in conversation. And even just as you were going through the multitude of things that teachers can choose to put aside or pause so they can take care of themselves, this idea creeped back in where I'm like, what? Eric, you want us to not grade the stack of papers? You want us to choose to leave something in the classroom and address it the following day rather than take it home with us? I would feel so guilty. This concept of guilt is something that I think is going to be really relevant as we discuss finding the balance between the profession that we are serving in and also ensuring that we are taking care of ourselves and our own families. What's your thoughts on teacher guilt? What's your perspective?
I think with teacher guilt, it shows that how much heart we have for the profession and how much empathy we have for our kids, and we will care to give the very best. It's really funny because I know there's a big focus on social emotional learning, and sometimes it just kind of marvels me, like, wait a minute, you're training people who are educators to be empathetic for kids. That's kind of just natural, that wait, why do I need a training on this? I know I need to be sensitive. I need to, look at what the home life is. I need to know what's going on with the kid. I know it's my responsibility. And it just amazes me that that just doesn't happen naturally. But when it comes to teacher guilt, and you have nothing to be guilty about. You are teaching your kids. You are doing your job. But you need to ask yourself, and I do this actually with my questioning training and saying, are you working harder teaching, or are the kids working harder than you learning? It's kind of like going back to Robin Jackson stuff. You'll never work harder than your students. And it's going to cause burnout, and especially now, because there's so many things going on. We need to take care of ourselves, and we also need to recognize and realize that we are not defined by our job. We are not defined by our accomplishments, our job. We're defined by how we treat others, what we do for others, how we serve, and also how we treat ourselves. And this teacher guilt, it's not you should have nothing to be guilty about. What you have to be guilty about is that if you're not serving your kids or doing your best for your kids every single day. What you have to be guilty about is that if you are beating the kids out of the parking lot at high school at the end of the day, or that's the thing. If you're not giving your best, that's what you have to be guilty about, feel guilty about. But it's okay. And we need to have this shift where that we're not feeling like we're working so hard teaching. We need to give it to the kids. And I think a lot of times, Ray, what happens with us is that the only thing negative I could say about teaching is that a lot of us, it's about control, and we're afraid of letting go, like the song says. And what
I
if we
really
just
wish
let it go?
I really wish you were going to sing for me right there, just so you know. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I was really hoping you were going to just like get Let It
Now,
Go tune in. I'm just saying.
Now, wait a minute, but everyone traditionally sings, Elsa singing Let It Go. I sing Lita Ford, you gotta let go. You gotta let go.
There you
And
go.
now that's on YouTube everywhere. Great. I'm going to be like a viral video, hopefully.
I hope
So, Lita Ford, great performer from the 80s. Go check it out. Heavy metal from back in the 80s. But the thing is this, you gotta let go, and you gotta turn it over to the kids. You like Batman? One of my favorite lines from Batman Begins: why do we fall? So we can learn to get up again. That's what we need to teach our kids. We got to learn that they fall and how they can go teach themselves to get up again. We fail when we don't. Okay. We're unsuccessful when we do, and we either work towards success or realize, hey, you know what? This is not for me. I'm going to walk away, and I'm okay with that. That's how I felt when I walked away from the film industry. But don't feel guilty if you're not doing the work, or being an advocate for kids does not mean sacrificing yourself. Okay, being a champion for kids does not mean you're being a champion for yourself. It's okay to take time away for yourself. You'll be a better teacher in the long run, and your students will be better off in the long run.
So many good one-liner mic drop moments there, Eric. I love it. I love it. I love it. So fun. Good morning to those of you tuning in. We are just wrapping up our brainstorm bank discussion, where we not only obviously were able to dive into so many things I know you're passionate about, Eric, but also touch on this concept of truly finding time to take care of yourself and ensure that you are still, even in the beginning of October, choosing to make sure that you are not only being successful, but your students alongside you are being successful by having you model the wonderful balance that we all have. I really think that teaching is it's a career, but it really does become a lifestyle. And a part of that lifestyle is not just working constantly, but it's also taking time for yourself. And you were able to share so many little tidbits. I know that you, just as we wrap this up, obviously you just had the hip replacement. I'm thrilled that you're feeling wonderful. We were talking about that before we came live. But are you back to your workout schedule? Where are you at in terms of that recovery? I know you said you were feeling good, but what's on the workout schedule this week?
I'm getting back into it. I'm not lifting like the way I used to, which is fine, because as I got older, I realized I can't lift like the way I went when I was 15 or 20 years old. So I'm doing a lot of lighter weights with more reps. I have a routine that I do. that I like, for example, I'll do 10-pound weights, but I'll set the clock for a minute and just do the routine with 10-pound or 5-pound weights. So I'm starting to get back into that, starting to get back to riding my Peloton. It's funny because it sounds so, pandemic about Peloton, but we got a Peloton before the pandemic hit. And it was just like almost like, like being, prophetic about it. So I'm starting to get back into that. I have these great things. They're called chop fits. They're axes. They're plastic axes with a weight, and when you swing it, there's two that I have two that when you swing it, it's like 16 pounds, and there's one I have where if you swing it, it's like 32 pounds. And they have ads all over Facebook for it. And if you click it once, you're going to see it always because we already learned about the metrics on Facebook and how they do things. But these things have really been a game changer. So I'm trying to slowly get back into it. It's also thinking about, how to take care of my health now. I mean, I'm, now 50 years old. I'm not working out like the way I used to. And I just revealed my age. I can't believe that. So I just, I have to work out differently. But I really think the thing is about, taking that time to exercise and work out. I'm not a major athlete. I'm not a triathlete or anything, but taking that time for health. I think that's why my hip replacement recovery has been what it's been. I had this procedure called an anterior, which they don't cut through tissue. They actually push the muscle aside and replace it and then put it back together. And I mean, I was telling you before, I mean, I went in at 5:45. I was out by 7:45. I woke up at 9:30, 10 o'clock. I was walking around the surgery center. 10:30, I got sent home. That night, I went upstairs carrying my walker, and I had to walk for a while. By that, it was on a Thursday. By that Sunday, I was walking without the walker, and a week later, they said, you don't need to use the walker anymore. So I think taking that time, being healthy, and taking that time for health for yourself, that I think helped me in the long run. And I really think that's something we need to do. And I know the first day you do it, the first day you pick up the weights, the first day you do that walk, the first day you run, the first day I do this thing called DDP yoga, which is from a guy who was a pro wrestler named Diamond Dallas Page. It's with resistance. And also the first time you do it is horrible, but that's day one and it'll get better. Just keep at it. Don't quit. And it's so important for us because healthy body, healthy mind, healthy mind, healthy body. And we really need to take the time. And also healthy relationships, call your friends, reach out. Don't just text. I mean, I know I text you all the time, but Rae, I wish I could call you. I'm old school.
Yeah, I
You know,
love
I,
phone calls. Love it.
I love hearing people's voices and text. I think often so many things get misinterpreted and everything. It's that take the time to reach out. There used to be an ad calling reach out and touch someone, just say hi, and basically I think that's one of the things we need to do. We need to make sure that we're just not so frittered away with the details of life. We need to take time out and just make those connections, take the time to be, make ourselves healthy, make ourselves happy, and it's not looking at it from a Pollyanna or Pollyanna standpoint. It's looking at the glass half full. There was a movement I was doing for a while where I called it shift to what if. And we do this in education. We have these great ideas and we all sit around and then, okay, why won't this work? Okay. Or what's going to happen if this doesn't work? We know what's going to happen if it doesn't work. It's not going to work and it's not going to be bad. But what if it does? You got to shift your mindset like that. Like I always do, like what shift to what if. Like if I'm laying on the couch and I'm watching TV and I'm like, oh, I know I should work out, but I'm feeling like this, I'm feeling like that. Well, what if I go and work out? Well, if I go and work out, I might feel better. If I don't, then I know what I expect. So it's no surprises. The surprise is, what if I go work out and it actually, I feel better? Or what if I do this? And that's the thing. You got to just shift your mindset. Shift to what if. That's what I say about that.
I love it. And you've shared so many different things for people to consider. And aside from challenging our network to be healthy, challenging our network to take time for themselves, finding the right opportunities that we have to shift our mindset, to choose to do something else, to recharge. I'm also thrilled to hear that you're feeling so wonderful, Erik. So I'm glad the recovery is going so wonderfully. We're going to continue with that good news, that celebration, that positivity as we transition into our last segment of the Daily Drop-In, headed into a good news story and the celebrations from the day. And this is going to be a good one. So we'll be right back. Good morning, everyone. As we wrap up our daily drop-in today with the one and only Erik Francis. Erik, we have a lot to celebrate today, and I'm eager to get your thoughts on some of the holidays, the national and global holidays that we can celebrate today. I think it's interesting. There are two holidays that are very, very similar, so I'm going to read them both. One is National Do Something Nice Day, and one is National Be Nice Day. I think there's a theme going on here.
Oh, definitely, definitely, and I think the whole world would be better if we were just a little bit nicer to each other, you know. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, I'm just I don't know about you. I'm sure you feel the same way. I'm so sick of the nastiness. I'm so sick of the vitriol. I'm so sick of this, you know, justifying how we treat each other because it's just how I feel. No, we've lost the art of dialogue and discussion. We can agree to disagree. We can walk away, you know, having different perspectives and thoughts and still be friends and colleagues at the end of the day. So that's the day that really needs to be celebrated. Hopefully it won't feel awkward for people because I know
Well,
we haven't been nice to each other for a
especially
while.
especially with our Teach Better family, there's so much kindness to go around. I've seen so much kindness modeled over and over and over again. So we're thrilled to remind everybody here that it is just a little bit extra today. And of course, it's coupled with World Teachers Day. World Teachers Day is celebrated on a global level, and that is going on today. There are so many educators to celebrate, not only those in our family, but actually in the nationaltoday.com reference. They go through some of the wonderful teachers that have been modeled in film, which I know is something very, very close to your heart, Erik. So it references Miss Honey from Matilda and Dumbledore from Harry Potter and Miss Norbury. So there's so many different elements here. Of course, there's some other kind of goofy things going on today, but we just want to continue to celebrate the educators, the teachers within our network, because there are some wonderful educators that can be celebrated today. I kind of feel like every day is World Teacher Day, but we'll just pretend today is something special. The last thing I wanted to note, Erik, is that we have a good news article, and it's funny because you mentioned the Wall Street, and I thought that this was kind of so serendipitous that you had mentioned that earlier as you were talking about getting up early and getting your day started, like somebody would in the stock market. The good news story that I wanted to bring to all of you this morning, I think would be wonderful to also bring to your students, a really good starter to mention to a colleague. This title says, "You can have it all, just not all at once," says first woman to head major Wall Street bank. So Jane Faster is incoming CEO for the CD Group, and she is the first woman CEO of this Wall Street bank. It goes through all these different things she's done in her career, some incredible quotes celebrating this monumental new position. And then she goes through actually some advice that she would share. And so she's really leading the charge and ensuring that there is not only diversity in that space, but also women representation in the CEO title. So something very, very exciting that we can absolutely look up and bring to our students as great discussion topics. I know anytime you can bring something of an interesting topic to your students to kind of foster a discussion is a good thing. Don't you think, Erik?
Oh, definitely, definitely. You know, and I always say I look forward to where headlines like that are not headlines, it's just natural. You know, I mean, I work with a school, it's a charter school out here that works specifically with students with autism. And one of the things I did with the training was that you always see these, you know, these headlines, student with autism, or this person who also happens to be this race, gender, whatever. You know, that shouldn't be a headline. That should just be natural. You know, that should be something that basically that's life. You know, I mean, I mean, I love celebrating that stuff, but I can't wait to the time where it's just like, hey, this person got it. Oh, and they also happen to be, no, it's like this person got it.
Yeah.
Okay. And to be that inspiration just as the person. And but I think that's the thing is that we need to encourage kids and we need to encourage everybody and realize, you know, there's a saying out there that says it is what it is. I hate that saying. I think that's surrendering to the situation. I tell people it is what you make it. You know, another thing I often say also is tragedy is temporary, and I decide how the story is going to end. Do I want to end it as a tragic tale, or do I want to end it as a Shakespearean comedy, which is happily ever after? And I think if we take that kind of attitude, you know, we can be successful. So kudos to that person, you know, for the article. But again, I always say like I cannot wait for a day where stuff like that, and a lot of that I think also comes from me personally. My dad was a dumble amputee, and he was actually a leader in the civil rights movement for disabled. If you see a documentary called Crip Camp on Netflix, he's in it. 40 minutes in, you'll see a guy who looks like me with a 1970s haircut with mutton chops on his face and everything. He's not interviewed, but he really revolutionized the way we look at the disabled and not looking at the disabled, say that's a disabled person, looking at them as a person, you know, is that basically that's, you know, a characteristic. Oh, that's also, you know, he's who he is, but he also happens to be a double amputee, or he is who he is, or, you know, he also happens to be have these issues or these special needs or identify like this. It's identifying as a person. And really, I think, you know, it gets to that point where it's like, hey, I want to celebrate you, Rae. You know what I mean? And you're Rae. And it's the others, whatever that, how do you, you're Rae. Tell me how you identify. Tell me who you are. Tell me, and I will acknowledge that, you know, and that's what I think, you know, hopefully we'll get to that kind of world someday.
We absolutely will. And thanks to all these people leading the charge to allow us to get there. Your father, obviously, Jane in the article, you know, all
Mm-hmm.
these people leading the charge to ensure that that happens. So big celebrations there. There are a lot of things that we can dive into in that article, not only related to diversity in the workplace, but so many different opportunities here of discussion. So hopefully, as you kick off your Tuesday morning, you can think through how maybe you want to use these good news articles, these holiday celebrations to continue to foster good relationships and good discussions with those around you. So wonderful, Erik, to have you on the Daily Drop In. We have covered so many different topics, and I'm so appreciative that you were able to share not only your expertise, your passion, but also just some personal stories about what you continue to strive for in the work that you do. Would you mind kind of sharing at the tail end here how people can stay connected? I know your Twitter handle is up on the screen, but any other avenue that you'd like people to connect with you alongside?
Sure, you can connect me at Twitter at Maverik, Maverik, you can go to my website at www.maverikeducation.com. You know, feel free to like email, feel free to connect. You know, your emails will go right to my phone, and I'll text you probably. Like that's how kind of like you and Chad and all of us started talking. And just really like, you know, hopefully, you know, being out there and just, you know, giving me, you know, hey, how are you? Say hi. You see me at a conference, walk up. You know, if you can go, Eric Francis, I'll go where, you know, or something like that. You know, it's funny. I don't see, and it's funny because we did an interview once before. And I don't see myself kind of like that, you know, and because it's funny, like we didn't really even talk about like stuff that's coming up, you know, with me in terms of, you know, professionally. And I'm totally cool with that. You know, I mean, I love the fact that just having the conversation with it. And so again, just my website, maverikeducation.com. You can email me at Erik, Erik, at maverikeducation.com. Twitter, you have my handle up there. So yeah.
Yeah, I know the last thing I did want to mention, obviously, was the big book. The book releases exactly a month from today, which is
Mm-hmm.
crazy. November 5th is when the book is going to be in the hands of educators around the world. Obviously, it dives into some of the things that we talked on today. Your passion for depth of knowledge, web's depth of knowledge is obviously a huge focus, especially with the title of the book, but it's on pre-order right now. So if you have been connecting with Erik and enjoying this dialogue, I know, Erik, you have so much more to share only in this short show where we're able to touch on a few things. But obviously, the book is something that people can go and not only pick up their first book, but pre-order the second, because that's going to be a massive celebration, not only within your community, but within the Teach Better family as well. So I'm very, very excited for you.
Well, Ray, I enjoy talking to you, and I enjoy, doing all the stuff with the Teach Better team. Hopefully, you'll have me back. Hopefully I can schedule another time. I mean, thank you very much for this forum, and thank you very much for this ability to like spread the message and spread the methods out there. And yeah, I'm really excited. I'll give a quick plug. It's called Deconstructing Depth of Knowledge, Method and Model for Deeper Teaching and Learning, and it's coming out from Solution Tree, and it's on pre-order now. And what I did with it was I turned the DOK levels into a method and model for teaching and learning. I turned it into an RTI. I talk about how you can use it to help address the 4 PLC questions from the DeFours. And reach out to me, connect with me. I would love to talk DOK. I just had a Twitter conversation with somebody. Somebody asked me, "Hey, Eric, this whole thing with standards, how did DOK work with it?" And I responded on Twitter, but also personally messaged them and said, "Hey, do you want to have a conversation about DOK?" So give me a call. We'll talk. No big whoop.
Love it. I love it. And Eric, we're always supportive of the work that you continue to do. And I see
Thank
the book
you.
all over social media. People are so excited for this big release. And obviously, Solution Tree is a very, very, very well respected publisher. And I can only imagine
They
that they are eager to celebrate your work as well. So we
they
appreciate
are
all you do.
they are so fantastic. Talk about an author friendly company. I mean, this was such a fantastic every day. It's such a fantastic experience. Such gracious people. They respect the creativity of the author. And they'll challenge you thinking, and they'll push you on it, and you'll be sitting there going, "You know what? I really don't want to do that." Da, da, da. Then, oh my gosh, they're right, and I'll go and do it. I really cannot express thank you to Solution Tree. This has been such a great experience working with them, and I look forward to having a continuous relationship with them.
Well, we will all go check out not only the new book with Solution Tree that's coming out November 5th, all focused on web's depth of knowledge, but also your first book with ASCD. We love ASCD as well. So thank you, Eric, for joining us. For everybody else, we hope that you enjoy your last sips of coffee as you get into the most incredible Tuesday you have ahead of you. October 5th is a day to celebrate. And we are so excited that you decided to start your morning here with us. So make sure to let us know if you need anything. We're always here for this dialogue. Tomorrow we will be live with Jeff Gargas and the incredible Lillian Ardell. I cannot wait for that conversation. I will be tuning in from my car on my way to go hang out with Dr. Dave Schmittou. So tons to celebrate, but we're always here. Let us know if you need anything. And have a wonderful Tuesday. Bye, guys.